the way the knowledge had to be spread was through a very theatrical display. So this is a diagram that that sort of scientific enterprise prepared. It shows, this is a vacuum chamber, various different kinds of parts of the apparatus to make it work. It was very difficult to build this apparatus because the craft of creating large glass spheres was very, very, very difficult. It was something that couldn't be done routinely. You couldn't just go to the store to get one of these. All the equipment had to be made by hand. But what's most interesting, I think, about this diagram is what lies underneath it. So there's the theater above, up here, and then below there are these two workmen who are essentially doing this very, very arduous, very, very difficult and physically demanding task. They were basically like strongmen, and their job was to essentially keep pumping to get the air out of the vacuum. And if you've ever tried to draw air from something until there's no air left, it becomes very, very difficult quickly. And so they were just doing this really hard work and this physical labor of doing this. And what I find most interesting about this diagram is the way it essentially blends this this part above, where you don't have to see all the work that's going on below. So if you're in this theater, you wouldn't see the workmen below. You only see it in this diagram because, the diagram had to be prepared so people who were going to repeat the experiment could see exactly how it's done and what they would need. And two strong guys and a big pole and this big bucket of water to help evacuate the air and this kind of thing. And what I see these guys as are essentially craftspeople, like myself, you. They're the people who are actually doing the work to make the magic appear above. And so focusing on this, all the things that happen behind the scenes and understanding that something happens behind the scenes is quite crucial. And that behind the scenes work, that production work that goes on to make that miraculous device or object or idea appear in the world and to materialize in the world. All this work is something that I'm just calling the special effect. So it's the thing that is you don't know about. If you think for a minute, you imagine it must happen somehow, but usually people don't pay much attention to it. And I call it the special effect mostly because of the so it's a term that I borrow from film production. So people who make films, you see that miraculous bit of science or of technology happen in a film. Oftentimes it's done by people who do the special effects. So this is more of a metaphor for the creative work that goes into producing something that is usually quite fantastic and almost beyond belief. And I think what I want to show you next as an example is this moment in Minority Report, so the Minority Report interface.
Good luck, John.
Any contractions?
Only the ones you give me.
Okay, Jed, what's coming?
Red Ball, double homicide, one male, one female. Killer's male, white, 40s. Agatha nailed the time frame at 8:04 a.m. The twins are a little fuzzy on that, so we'll need confirmation. Location still uncertain. Remote witnesses are plugged in. This will be case number 1108.
Morning, detectives. Case number 1108, pre-visualized by the precogs, recorded on hollow sphere by pre-crimes Q-Stacks. My fellow witnesses for case number 1108 are Dr. Catherine James and Chief Justice Frank Pollard. Good morning.
Good morning.
Will the witness preview and validate number 1108 at this time?
Affirmative, I will validate.
Go get him.
Stand by.
Time of murder, 8:04 a.m. That is 24 minutes, 13 seconds from now. This is a red one.
You know how blind I am without those ones.
All right, Howard Marks. Where are you?
Fourscore and 7 years ago.
He looked familiar.
Who?
A man standing in the park across the street. I've seen him before.
How can you even tell? You know how blind you are without your glasses. Where are your glasses?
I must have left him up in the bedroom.
You are running out of time.
You know how blind I am.
I show 8 Howard Marks in the district, sorting by race and age.
He looks familiar.
Under license registration. See if I can capture an address here.
Running out of time. You know, I was thinking maybe I'd play hooky, stay home today. Working too much.
Can you grab that?
It's unclear.
I got 6 licenses. Where do you want them?
Over here, please.
Very slow.
You know how blind I am without them.
Got him in the foxhole, 4421 Gainsborough.
Send a DCPD blue and white. Set up a perimeter and tell them we're en route.
You know, I was thinking maybe I'd play hooky, stay home today.
We have come to dedicate a portion of that field.
What do you think?
As a final resting place, what about your meeting?
I'll reschedule. I've been working too much anyway.
It's all together, fitting, and proper. We should do this.
But in a larger sense.
We'd have lunch together.
Cannot consecrate. We cannot haul this ground.
I would love
The
to.
brave men, living and dead,
I have an open
fought
house
here,
at the Wrestler Place.
have consecrated far above our poor power to add or detract. The world
Well, I
will
guess that's
little
why you
know
look so
and
nice.
long remember what we say.
And since we're in Hollywood, now to the second part of our double feature, if you will. The technology you're about to see was developed here in Los Angeles, where movie studios and defense contractors live and work and imagine the future side by side.
Hey, Jed, what's coming?
Red Ball, double homicide, 1 male, 1 female. Killer.
In the movie Minority Report, the actor Tom Cruise plays a detective who can see into the future to prevent crimes. He stands before an elaborate video wall wearing futuristic gloves to coordinate vast amounts of information.
Time frame?
13 minutes.
The entire film, of course, is pure fiction. But an essential part of that science fiction, those high-tech gloves, were based on scientific fact. Developed for the film by this man, John Undercover, a straight-out-of Central casting whiz kid from MIT.
You have to understand that none of the stuff worked for real in the movie. It was all special effects and composited in later.
But the people at Raytheon, who among other things build spy satellites for the U.S. government, saw that movie and wondered, could the fictional technology used to coordinate vast amounts of information with hand gestures, not a computer mouse, be real? The answer, said the whiz kid, was sure.
Because we'd gone to such pains to base the stuff in the movie on real existing technology, on real emerging technologies that we could extrapolate forward, people recognized that.
So Undercover and his partner, Kevin Parent, created hardware they call G-Speak and created a new term, gestural technology. Your hands, in other words, can direct images and information directly onto a computer or onto an array of screens. How it actually works is for now a secret, but these gloves can direct both static and video images with ease.
If I strike a particular pose, that might mean move my cursor around the screen. Another pose might mean click to select something on the screen. And then beyond that, I can do all kinds of other things, like point with 2 fingers, point with my pinky, say, make a thumbs up gesture, make an OK gesture, all of which can have meaning at the same time.
Which one day may mean a great deal to people whose business it is to gather and collate information and act on it.
For example, we get a report in an operations center that perhaps a terrorist has entered a place, entered a building, and we have to make certain that that bit of information is correct. With gestural technology, a commander could perhaps stand in front of a screen, point his finger to that location, and call up all of the information that's archived about it. Maybe a map, a photograph, a history of who's been in and used that building.
It may be 5 or 10 years before the military applications are realized, but other more prosaic goals are much closer.
You can certainly imagine, and many have, the idea that, you know, if I want to interact with a computer game and I can just strike a pose and do that, and I can move through all the sorts of things instead of having my controller, that's a pretty exciting proposition for us. Something we intend to pursue.
For now, this technology is untested in the real world, but not for long.
This stuff is ready to go, shall we say. This is, we can imagine by the end of the year you'll see all sorts of applications that involve the G-Speak technology.
In the very near future, as in moments from now, we have much more ahead on the program, starting with an incredible story of survival.
So that was, I put those 2 examples together as films, so one being Minority Report, and then the other being this very curious report from CNN, where they were basically doing a newscast to describe this technology that everyone saw in the film. And then we talked to the sort of technical consultant, special effects guy for the film, who's an engineer himself. He lives here in Los Angeles, who essentially used the film as a way to explore his own ideas about what a very advanced kind of interface technology might be. We have to remember that this was in the late 1990s. Minority Report came out in 2002, I think. So this was all before the Nintendo Wii and before all, gesture, even gesture from like the iPhone, for example. This was before it was in people's minds as a possible kind of idea, as a material idea. So it took quite a bit of creative foresight and creative thinking to come up with this idea, and then convince people that this might be something that might be kind of interesting to explore. And what I think is that the idea, while it might seem very futuristic, the idea becomes so much more possible and so much more tangible when it's presented in a very good, exciting story like Minority Report. So it has much more life to it. Just maybe just a rather boring kind of engineering description of the technology. So when you add all the excitement and the drama and the suspense of the film combined with this idea of a gesture interface, the light, there's so much more life goes into it. And the second point to make about it, about this Minority Report film and the CNN report, is the opportunity that John Underkoffler, the engineer who came up with the idea and developed it, was able to essentially take that idea and prototype it through the film. So he had the opportunity to work not only with a really good science fiction story by Philip K. Dick, but also together with an absolutely amazing visual storyteller, that being, of course, Steven Spielberg. So when you combine these elements of a very good storyteller, a very good story. So the good storyteller is Steven Spielberg. The really great story is this Philip K. Dick, science fiction writer. Philip K. Dick short story combined with a very passionate engineer, technologist. You bring those three elements together, and you have this really very important reference point in society for people to understand what a gesture interface might look like. So anytime someone asks, now it's kind of people wouldn't necessarily ask that so much unless they were living on a deserted island for a long time. But if someone asked you, what is a gesture interface, you could say like, well, you know what, I could explain it to you, but you might learn more about it by watching this. Go watch this film and come back in a couple of hours and let's talk about what gesture interfaces are. And this to me defines the essence of what design fiction, when done really well, can be. So you can explain something, you can give someone's imagination the ability to imagine your idea by telling them a story and showing them a prop or showing them a film, if you have the capability to make a film, and allowing the conversation to start from that rather than the conversation starting from some engineering specification or even just from a diagram. And so combining story, the fiction part, with design